everybody, welcome to the Joe Pop Podcast. This is episode 9, part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah. So we're ready to wrap up this interview with Alex Chatman, and we're moving.
Yeah.
Trying not to hit the Jeep on the way out.
Yeah. So, Joe, I got to tell you, thank you. I got a chance to glance at episode 1. I was impressed with your driving capabilities because you didn't get us in an accident, and you also successfully navigated around my parked Jeep. So
Yes, I did.
yeah, great skills, bro.
Oh, you know, military taught me a couple of things.
All right.
So, all right. I think last time we had left it off, you'd gotten picked up for the F-35 program.
Yes. Yes. So I won't speak too much about that, only because there's really not a whole lot to talk about. I got a chance to literally have the pleasure of working with probably the top 10% in the world of their pilots. And so any of the pilots that were on the F-35 program in some of the foreign countries, they sent their best to the Joint Program Office, and having the joy of working with them, hearing their stories, spending time with them, listening to what was important, also some of their tactics and things. I thought that was fantastic. Other than that, that's...
So I'm going to throw stones.
Okay.
So, and I just want to see, hey, what did you see in regards to what I'm about to throw up there? So having worked with combat controllers, with my first assignment, and working with, TAC-Ps.
Okay.
And I'm curious, I bet you Anglo-Co would probably also have the same argument. The F-35 being pitched, and I should not have gone this way. We'll do a Huey.
That's a good call.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I don't come out
School's
this way.
back in session, everybody.
Yes, it is.
And this is probably the longest school zone I've ever been through. It's like a mile long. Anyway, to get back on track. So, yeah, this pitch that what you got?
I would make a left back into the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Because going out by the Dollar General, the DG, you're going to run into the same thing down there that you just saw.
Gotcha. All right, learning a new way through here.
Yep. And so what you're going to do is just go. By the way, folks, apologize. This is not the normal Joe podcast where you got a guy right side driving, but just go all the way down.
He's a retired officer. He can't help it. But hey, I'm all for it on this one.
Yeah, trying to save your bacon, bro.
I appreciate it. So so you hear the Air Force brass or the Pentagon pitching, oh yeah, this is the greatest CAS platform ever. And it's kind of like, yeah, I don't think so, because a lot of guys, that have worked with the A-10s before, were pretty not very happy with the choice of the F-35. Obviously, when it comes to defense contracting and the amount of money, it gets pretty problematic. So what were surely at some point you heard those arguments from guys in the field. Am I making it right?
Oh, you're going to make a left.
Making a left.
So, yes, I've heard the argument before, but also at the same time, how it was envisioned to be employed is awesome.
Okay.
Because it's a flying sensor. And the close air support, getting down in the dirt and getting after it, A-10s are just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not an A-10 platform, but a platform that can talk to another platform that can send aid and a lot of hate on your enemy. That's what this thing is really designed to do. So that from that perspective, it far exceeds a lot of what's fielded out there right now. It's
really?
5th gen. Oh yeah.
Well, because another premier CAS platform that I worked with was the Reaper. And we could bring a lot of hate and a lot of time on target. And so, let's see where this cat's gonna go.
Yep. And then once you get down to the stop sign, make a left.
Okay. And so that being said, when you look at an F-35, I mean, how much does it bring to the fight?
Oh, it depends. Like day one, it's coming in stealth.
Yeah.
Anytime after that, it's coming in like a truck.
Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It can deliver some good heat.
Okay.
And even once it goes bingo on all that.
Am I making a left?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We'll talk to other folks and, bring more to the party, as it were.
Okay. I will give you the benefit of the doubt on that one, but at least for all my ALO brothers out there, TACP, CCTs, all that stuff, the question's been asked. So, anyway, I have no idea what he's up to.
Yeah, me neither. By the way, if you guys see it on the way back, there's a kind police officer stopped in the middle of the road with his lights on with nobody around. So, who knows?
Okaloosa's finest. Shout out to the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah. Now you're going to go straight through this without striking a child.
Holy cow, so many kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be one way to put Joe Pop Podcast out in the out there.
Yeah.
Highlight it.
This would be like the one edition that people are like, yeah, did you see that one edition?
Dude, raw and uncut, man. He's got everything on there.
Yep.
But okay, so anyway, so you're working that program at the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well obviously.
Well, actually in Crystal City.
Where's Crystal City at?
Right across the street from the Pentagon.
Oh, okay, so
yeah, it's still in the Arlington, Virginia area.
Okay.
And I have no idea what this guy's doing. Neither do they, and so that's fair.
Okay, so now that I think about correlation of time when the F-35 is kicking off, we have skipped some significant chapters of your life. One of them being American Gladiator. Dude.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did this come about? Because at the time, if I remember right, you are Captain Alex Chatman, right?
Yes, that's correct. Marine Corps Captain. By the way, for those that scroll the YouTubes, it's out there. They even have some of the shorts, excerpts from that time there. So let me just kind of build the scenario, and hopefully it will help, bring a little clarity to your statement in question. So American Gladiator was a program several years ago. I want to say the early 90s, where contestants would go up against these basically fit models. That's probably the best way to describe it. And challenge them into different types of, let's just call them feats of strength, right? And so during this program, you would have several opportunities to score points, and the contestants that scored the most points would actually move on, right? So they would have 2 male contestants, 2 female contestants, and then go from there. So I have seen that program over the years, and I was like, man, that would be something cool to do. I mean, like, who wants to watch a 165-pound CPA from Reseda, right? Like, I want to see some dudes getting after it. And so that was my thought. That was the extent of what I ever thought about American Gladiators. But then one day during a safety stand down, and I'm pretty sure that if you're looking and listening to this, you know what a safety stand down is, right? Don't drink and drive, don't drive and drink, don't do stupid stuff. And so after the third course of that, you're kind of like just checked out. So a bunch of us were sitting at our safety stand down on a Friday, and one of my buds, irony, the one bud I'm talking about is now a congressman, said, hey, we got to do this. And he handed me the base newspaper. And I looked at it, and it was a fishing trip going out to Catalina Island. And I was like, we're fishing trip? He goes,
heck
no.
Yeah, Catalina? Heck
oh, yeah. Yeah. I was like, the fishing trip? He goes, no, dude. The American Gladiator tryouts. I was like, what? He goes, yeah. I said, well, you want to go left?
Okay.
And I was like,
immediate right?
Yes, sir.
Is that us? Okay, got it.
Yep. And I said, well, when is it? He goes, tomorrow. I was like, all right. So there were 6 of us at the table that day, and 5 of us said, yeah, let's do it. 4 of us showed up in my kitchen that next morning. 3 of us went up, 2 of us made it, and 1 made it to the final. Typical Marine Corps planning. So that morning, I had told my wife, I was like, hey, we're going up to Burbank, just like right outside of Hollywood for an activity. And of course, she wanted to know, like, what do you mean activity? I was like, well, there's American Gladiator tryouts. What's involved with that? So, well, we're going to run around, do whatever they say we need to do, and then come home after that. I work tomorrow. Yes, baby, I do. So, you're going to have to take our children with you. One that is close to 2 years old, and the other one that is close to 4 years old. So basically a 1-year-old, 3-year-old. And I was like, baby, I got it. Rhino, Gump, myself, we're going up, and we're on top of it. And she was like, right. If they don't come home, you don't come home, basically. I mean, you know the deal, dude.
Plus you get the Father of the Year medal.
Oh, yeah. Oh. So that morning, we drove up to Burbank. I had the kids' stroller. I had snacks for all of us. We were ready to go. And then they tell you, like, hey, for this event, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. Now, one of the things I did not consider was how many contestants. Like, there were easily 3,000 or 4,000 people there.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Now, these weren't all guys trying out.
Yes, these
really?
are all contestants.
Wow.
Like, that tryout, you didn't meet any of the, quote, glads. You basically were in line with the 165-pound CPA from Reseda, running backs and linebackers from UCLA and USC.
Okay.
Kid you not. These dudes were studs. And, like, just some regular Joe Schmoes. So I was like, huh. And the first event was pull-ups. I was like, okay, I can crank pull-ups all day like it's my job, right?
Right.
And so you get there and, they're like, how many pull-ups can you do in 30 seconds? So the how many pull-ups you can do, 30 is what stuck in mind. So I got to 30 and I stopped. And they're like, you still have more time. Oh, okay. So I cranked out another whatever more. But in that time, you now are like with a group, like this mass. And then you go from that to the next event. The next event was 40-yard dash. And they were just like lining folks up. Next. 6 on line, go. And so let's just say that was back in the day when the wheels still worked all in one space, right? So I was still running a 4.5 speed, no big deal. And of course, I am now with all these other running backs and linebacker kind of guys. These dudes are Adonis's, like, 6'4", 225, and running 4.5, 4.4 time. And I was like, wow. Then we would but each time we went to an event, there was a cutoff in either number or time or some other performance metric, right? So not a lot of people, there were some people that got called off there. And then we went inside to the building where we were doing push-ups.
Okay.
All right. And once again, 1 minute, get as many as you can. So I don't know, it's around 100 or so. And these aren't the stop and go. These are just cranking.
Right.
And so, and trust me, I'm sure many of you out there are going, oh man, that's a lot. Well, back in those days, man, you can crank like a champ. Nowadays, 10's good.
Oh, yeah. Remember, my last branch of service was the Air Force. Hey, guys, you guys know, yeah. So,
yeah.
Go ahead, man.
So after that one, once again, you, with your wave, if you will, go to the next event. The next event was the one that wiped them all out. It was a 20-foot rope climb.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep. And so you had to do it in under 12 seconds. Okay. And so my buddy Rano, my buddy Gump, and myself, we all went up, well, we were all staggered in different heats. And so, sitting on the floor, go. I went up the rope, came down, and I'm standing there on the ground watching guys still struggle trying to climb this thing. I was like, well, that's odd. And so they're like, okay, next. And I am waiting for the other folks to join me. No. Took out the running backs, took out the linebackers, took out, one of the CPAs. And off we went.
I mean, a CPA made it to the rope climb? A CPA made it to the rope?
Yeah. Not much after
hey,
that.
Legit CPA, let's face it. Okay. Props to the CPA.
Yeah, apparently he can calculate speed and, maybe some other things, but the total core of a body strength, no. So then you now get to the contestant versus contestant type thing. And so they want to see how many balls you can put in a bucket. And so when I mean a bucket, think of it like this, a 50-gallon trash can.
Okay.
And so it's to simulate one of the games you have. And so one guy's defending the goal, another guy is trying to put the balls in. And so I was the first one up in this new group to be on offense, if you will. And I put and it's 30-second time limit. And I put 10 or 12 balls in there. And I was doing Harlem Globetrotter stuff, and dunk, the no look, put in the bucket. And I felt bad because the guy that I was going up against was I think it was a North Texas police officer. Great guy.
Right.
But just not good on the moves. And so when he was, and I feel bad for this now that I recall it, it was his turn to go on offense, and he would come up, the bull rush didn't work. Then he tried to do some finesse and get that out of here, Not the most gracious responses from myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I noticed. I was watching. That's Marine through and through. There was definitely.
So you seen it?
Well, not that, but just.
Right. But you saw the episode though of the American Gladiator.
Of course, I watched it all the way through. I couldn't resist.
Oh, bro!
And there was definitely some Marine Corps bravado there.
Well, yeah.
Dating time, right?
Yeah.
You weren't a pastor yet, so
No.
I didn't expect you to be a saint.
And there's sometimes you just got to get on that horse and ride it, right?
Yep.
And so we went there. So, needless to say, from there, you go to an on-screen interview. They want to put you in front of a camera to see what you say, what you do, what your mannerisms are. If you're going to, pick things up and put them down, right? No, we're not doing that. And while I was waiting for that on-screen interview, I'm sitting beside this lady, and, I'm just waiting because the on-screen interview takes 2 minutes or more. And as I'm waiting, I just engage her in conversation. I said, so, where are you from? I'm from just right outside Dallas, Texas. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic. Are you out here on vacation? No, sir. I'm here. This is my 3rd year trying out, and I think I got a good shot this year.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay.
Tenacity.
Right. And she goes, is this your first time? Yeah, it is. Oh, okay. And that was it. That was the extent of the conversation. I had no idea that this was a thing and a thing that people would try over and over again. And so,
how many seasons did that thing run?
Wow, that's a great trivia question. I don't know, but I can tell you this. I would be surprised if it was less than 10. And because the reason why I say that is the one thing that impressed me, they shoot the whole season in 2 weeks.
Wow.
They're shooting 2 episodes per day, and they're done in 2 weeks. To include that includes the final.
Okay.
So in all of this, you were like, wow, you guys are really cranking this out. But it's a very efficient and economical way to run it through. Now, I'm not sure if you know, but there's a documentary on Netflix that covers this. So if you've seen the episode, go back and check out the documentary because it's pretty telling, and it's from the gladiator point of view perspective.
Okay.
And not necessarily the contender.
So are you in the documentary too? I gotta ask.
Yeah, episode 5.
Are you?
Now, ask me why I know that.
Because you watched it.
No, because my wife watched it.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. Dude, I'm like, okay, baby. She goes, you were in episode 5. I was like, thank you. I don't even know what to do with that.
Oh, man, that's classic.
Yeah. So after the on-screen interview, apparently I did well. And like I said, that was a Saturday morning. There was also one other thing that happened that was not related to the tryout itself, but it was the reality that I had our 2 boys with me.
Yeah, so where are they in the mix?
I
don't know.
Well, no, because this is being videotaped. They were under 100% watching care between the 3 of us.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons why we were staggered in our timing. All 3 of us made it to the video interview. That was good. But early in the thing, both of our boys are like blonde-haired, blue-eyed, beautiful young boys. They're actually very handsome young men now that they're in their 30s, cutting their own way. By the way, did you know my eldest was also a Marine?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
What, Annapolis grad, isn't he?
Yes. That's not associated with me.
Talking pedigree now.
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. I was like one of the leading window lickers in the Marine Corps, right? And so all those looks and intelligence they got from their mother. Yeah. Well, anyway, both of those boys were with me, and my buddy Rich, who's the congressman, he was, we're like literally all gathered around. I have the 2 boys in the stroller, and now I'm like stretching. I'm down, like doing a hamstring stretch. And just for the record, Rich has also shot the early Marine Corps commercial for recruiting. We called him Sword Boy as one of his original call signs, because he's the one standing there, the proud, the Marines. He's the guy with the sword at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, very. You might want to look that up. Like I said.
Yeah, I will, because I know one thing. The most memorable guy I can think of is the one black guy with that really deep voice.
Yeah.
Dude, that
motivating, ain't it?
Oh yeah.
It kind of makes you want to go Marine Corps, don't it?
It does. Even at 50, I'm like. Even at 54, I'm like, man.
Yeah, that's where it is. So anyway, as I'm stretching, somebody walks by, sees my 2 boys in the stroller, and looks at Rich and goes, "Oh, beautiful kids. Thank you." And I woke up and I'm like, "Bro." He's like, "I had to." I was like, "Come on, man." But also unrelated to the actual event, but one of those things that my wife noticed was that tryout was on the news that night.
Really?
Oh yeah. And she saw the 2 boys in the stroller, and she didn't see me.
Oh no. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where were you when this was being videoed? Probably winning. I had nothing, because I didn't even know they were on camera. So those are some of the things that
Holy cow.
got me.
I do vaguely remember, because they're sitting in the stands, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, I'm that guy with the elbow that just peeked in on the side of the screen there the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now did the Corps? Because I remember back in the day, the Department of Defense was pretty strict on guys participating in certain activities associated with the media. Did you get called on the carpet for any of that, or they're just like, "Hey, yeah"?
No, I mean, I had to. Yeah. So okay, so let me fast forward some of the things. That was Saturday. Tuesday, Rich and myself were notified that we were now at the next level. Basically, we were going to make a show. If we weren't going to make a show, then we would be the backups should a contestant get hurt. And I was like, oh, that's fine. But at that point, we both had to go talk to the CEO and and the PAO to let them know that this was going on. Got the thumbs up, cleared hot.
Nice.
But during also we had to take leave.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So
never mind the fact you're representing, the United States military.
Right.
They've got Yeah. Okay.
So we had to take leave, and which is no big deal, unless your wife says, "How much leave do you have?" And now that means we're not going to be.
2 days?
Yeah.
I only got 2 days, baby. How long is this event? 2 days, baby. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we got this, baby. during the introduction, like the familiarization or FAM course of all the events that we could do, I actually got hurt. You remember that one where they have the tennis balls coming at you? They shoot them, and you have to basically maneuver behind different things. And as they're shooting at you, you're trying to get, you're trying to miss it, but then you get to a point where you can grab one, and if you hit their thing, steam pops up and you win, right?
Okay.
Well, during that time, I was doing some maneuvering, and those balls are coming so fast, there's no arc.
Okay.
So if it's coming right between your eyes, you're not going to see it. And I got dinged once. I was like, okay, mental no, go faster. So so I was running, and I stopped, hit the ground, and when I hit the ground, my knee hit the floor. Just so you know, that is what do you call that? It's a film studio.
Oh, so it's not padded.
No, it's concrete floors with a little carpet on top.
Right.
And man, that caused my knee to swell. And so I did well that day, got the notification that I would be actually, I guess, one of the first episodes in the series.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But that I got dinged up on a Wednesday, and our show was on Friday.
Okay.
So all day Thursday I was icing it, and then Friday, was it Thursday or Friday? Anyway, I asked the flight doc. I was like, hey, can you tap and drain the fluid off my knee? No, sir. I was like, do you not know that? Yes, sir, I do know, but no, sir, I'm not doing it. I was like, why not? He goes, because if you get an infection, then you're not flying. If you're not flying, that's what you get paid for. So I actually had to do the RICE technique, right?
Okay.
Which is rest, ice, compression, elevation. Because up until that point, RICE really meant run it off, ibuprofen, continue exercise.
Yeah.
The morning for the show, we take off, go up to Burbank, and get ready for the show. By the way, while I was up there, we got a chance to walk the set of Roseanne, and then meet characters like Samuel L. Jackson.
Really?
Oh yeah. So we were just hanging out and talking, and during game day, there is a different kind of thing in the air, because they tell you point blank, the contestants with the glads, and they kind of have a good shtick on this one. Listen, we are not here to hurt one another, but if you get crazy, we're going to take you out.
Right.
And the women were like, hey, by the way, don't grab. You grab and something pops out, I'll hurt you. And I was like, brilliant. This is good. Now we all have that respect for one another. And then in between takes, you're sitting with the glads, and you're talking with them. And Hawk, professor at UCLA in economics.
Now wait a minute. Which one was Hawk?
The big 6'5" dude with a buzz cut, flat top. Remember the Breakthrough and Conquer where was it?
I remember the wrestling mat when you guys
right before the wrestling mat.
Okay.
That guy was the UCLA professor in economics.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, and some of these guys, they're like I said, two of them were like models, and they come up. One works at Dude Ranch, and this is just a couple weeks out of their summer.
Wow.
But that's what they were doing. I was like, well, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so now these events, you've practiced them, and you've done like all the things, and you're like, okay, it's game day. And so the first one out was Pyramid, did not do well, but I was very grateful, because you're like 2 stories in the air at the top, and you get flung down. I was like, you know what? I'm good by not really pushing on this one.
Right.
But every other event, I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And so you've already seen, some of the things like tug of war, like on the bone. And I saw some of their techniques, and I was like, okay, this is how you defeat that. This is how you defeat that. And so I was doing pretty well. Then, after the last event, there is a set change. to get to that whole large, basically, eliminator is what they called it, but it is basically like an E course or O course where you have so many things to navigate through and then a treadmill to run up at the end. Well, it takes them almost 3 hours to set that up.
Oh, wow.
So after going hard all day, guess what happened with my knee?
Just continued to blow up?
It blew up like a tick. And my buddy Rhino came down and he was like, "Oh, dude, you got this in the bag." And I was like, "Rhino, I don't think I do." He goes, "Why not?" I was like, "My knee, it's swollen. I'm not getting anything out of it." He goes, "Well, go out there and do what you can." And so I did. Ended up losing. And they were very kind when I say they. So they got me going up the ramp in the actual episode, but that was my second time up. They only showed me getting up successfully the first time.
Gotcha.
Swung through. Sergeant Michael Norman, great dude, by the way. Won, still happy for him. But my wife jumps out of the stand, lands on me after this, whole thing. I wanted to win, couldn't win. Now I'm tired because I gave it all I had, and she's laying on top of me. And I'm like, "Baby, you got to get off me. I can't breathe." But it was good. Man. So that's pretty much the extent of it.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
That's it's just funny. Hey, here's your new pastor, and by the way, he was on American Gladiator. It's like, oh yeah.
Well, the funny part is,
and then we're doing a podcast about even better.
You and I get this.
Yeah.
But if your clientele are in their 20s, it's like, well, is that like American Ninja Warrior or something?
Yeah.
Well, kind of, but with people that could crush you.
Yeah.
It's not an obstacle that you have to worry about. It's, a 230-pound,
Yeah, those cats were big.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, shoot.
Yep. And they could bring it. So my buddy Rich, when he was going up against them with the pugil sticks, they were trading some blows, bro. They were trading some blows.
Okay, so that's a pretty fun topic.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and switch gears and get into one that's burned into everybody's memory, and that is 9/11.
Yeah, bro, that was.
I had no idea until the last episode when you spouted off that you were at the Pentagon at that time. So tell me, and everybody remembers where they were at. Obviously, yeah, you've got a completely different experience compared to those of us that were sitting at home watching it unfold on TV.
Right.
And we're coming up on the 23rd anniversary?
Yeah, 23.
Okay. So, how does that morning kick off for you?
So I'll start with, the DC area. All right, we live south of the DC area, right? So we'd have to go north on I-95. But like a good Marine, I was only 6 miles north of Quantico, right? Marine Corps Base Quantico. So to get from north to south, or south to north rather, you could take a bus, you could drive up, or you could do something they call a slug ride. Now, a slug ride is nothing more than showing up at a location that's known typically around a bus stop, and where you get into a perfectly good stranger's car, and they go up, because with 3 people in the car, you can get into the high occupancy vehicle, HOV lane.
Yeah.
And so it's a symbiotic relationship, right? Meaning they get to work faster, they get to use the lane, and I will be a sandbag in their car if that's what it takes. Now, the reason why I make that statement is because when you drive up or you get a ride up in somebody's car, that means your car is at another location miles away.
Gotcha.
So that morning, get up, go to the slug lot, and just for those guys out there, they're like, okay, why do they call it a slug lot? Well, real quick on that one, the folks, once people started, and this happened in the 70s, folks started showing up at the bus lot, waiting for a bus, and sometimes buses were late, and the rumor has it that a guy drove through and convinced 2 other people to get in the car so that they could go up. Of course, they wanted to go, and of course, he wanted to go. So that's how it kind of started. And when the bus drivers were training new people, they would see these people like kind of standing off, and you know, are those our people? No, they're fake riders. Oh, fakes? Like, yeah, slugs, like, you know, the slug that you would put in a fake coin. So if you're standing there and you're not waiting for a bus but a car, you're a slug. So that's how that got started.
Okay.
All right, so that morning I slugged in. Beautiful Thursday morning, cool outside at that time, and I was like, man, what a great day this is. Got to the Pentagon, and I was working on the C&O staff for aviation, and we were working money. So I was in the money shop in 78 at the time. And so when we were working there, we were actually working a drill to see how to pay for flight hours and new mods on certain aircraft, and there just wasn't enough money in the budget. And so we were doing what I consider financial drills as, okay, if we wanted to maintain this level of readiness with these new capabilities on the aircraft, how would we do that if our budget's X?
Now, is this Marine Corps specific, or is this DOD?
Naval Aviation, Navy and Marine Corps.
All right, gotcha.
Yep. And so during this time, you know, we were working one of those, okay, not going to happen, but what would it look like if? And what it would look like is, what would it look like if we took out a carrier air group, like the ships, the number of aircraft and whatnot, to, you know, basically make all these other things whole.
Right. And
so we're like, yeah, that's not gonna go over well. It's not in accordance with some of our planning directives, etc. And that's when somebody said, "Oh, that's weird." What's weird? Oh, it's a plane that hit a building in New York. Oh, didn't think anything of it.
Oh yeah, that stuff's happened before.
Yeah.
You know, over the years.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, you know, like a Piper Cub or something.
Yeah.
Right? No big deal. Anyway, now we're working with one another, trying to refine the elements of our budget drill. And then somebody says, wow, that's not a coincidence. Oh, what's up? A second aircraft has hit. And we're not talking small aircraft, we're talking airliners. What?
Yeah.
One of our guys, our intel guy, Chuck Capitz, looked and said, "Gentlemen, I'll be back." So he went downstairs to the crisis action team, the CAT, and was down there. And one of the guys, because I don't know if you hang around guys, dark humor is actually appreciated. He walked by and went, "Ha, we're next." We were like, "Look at that."
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, you know what? That's a very real possibility. So we had a break in the budget drill where...
So this literally actually dawned on you guys that...
There's an outside chance that this could be a coordinated thing, because we didn't think in terms of an attack, but more along the lines of, you know, this is just crazy enough that there could be a corollary thing happening.
Okay. I would have made the correlation, because the first thing I thought about was, oh, damn, we're under attack. But it didn't even occur to me to think, you know, to that extent.
Right.
Yeah, no, so for how intuitive for someone to make that comment. Anyway, go ahead.
And so we had a break in the budget drill action where we were assigned different tasks and whatnot. And so I went back to my desk, and I, you know, pulled up open source stuff like CNN. I'm like, what is going on here? And as I'm pulling it up, all of a sudden I hear boom, 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 boom. And that's when the plane hit. Now, pause what I'm doing, and I got to tell you about the Pentagon. So the Pentagon, you know, built, I guess back in the 40s, using the dredged sand from the Potomac River right out front, built by the Army Corps of Engineers, designed for Russia attacks.
Right.
Meaning, like, it's concentric, not circles, but, you know, basically slots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pentagon. surrounded by another Pentagon, surrounded by another Pentagon. And it was intentional that there was space in between each section of this concentric, basically building. And that was, should something come in, it would allow the energy to flow up and not through. So that's part one.
Interesting.
Yep.
Cool.
The other part was the Pentagon was being, let's say, updated, refurbished. And so some of the things that they did in the updates, they took out the old glass that started to get wavy in it, because glass is liquid, and they were old, and they put in the new windows, which had a mylar film in it and other things, so that once again reduced the frag if blast should come in. The third thing that they did was they put Kevlar in the walls.
Okay.
And that once again was to reduce frag should something hit the outside.
Yeah, probably all stemming from Cobar Towers, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is 2001, so there's some data points out there as to, hey, we should probably do these things. If we're going to update this thing, let's update it, intelligently. And then they made some other updates that, should there be smoke or fire, the thing that you want to do is close off certain sections so the oxygen isn't continue to feed, but also you can slow the amount of progression of a fire because there's less oxygen. If we put in walls that close off certain corridors and sections. So those 4 updates, 3 of those saved my life. So when the plane came in, now picking up on the story, I knew exactly what happened in terms of we were hit, and each boom that was there was that plane going through one of the sections. So the inner corridor or intersection is called A ring, B ring, C ring, D ring, E ring. All the execs are on the E ring, and we were on the D ring. So when the plane went in, and by the way, it went underneath me. Like, that's what happened. Like, when
it penetrated as deep as the building that you were in, is what you're saying?
Well, in the ring, yes. I was a D ring. So the first ring was E. It went through that like butter. I was in D, so like you felt the earth beneath you like come up, and just the sound, the deep boom, you knew like, yeah, we're now in it. And so I did what any God-fearing, Christ-loving dude would do. I put my hands on the desk and I said, all right, Lord, if it's my time, I'm ready. And when he didn't answer, I got up and ran. So
now is the power out?
No,
okay.
It's not. So Bobby Greenberg was sitting on my left, and Owens Walker was sitting on my right. Bobby was actually, his seat was up against the wall, meaning like he was sitting here, and right to the left was the wall.
Okay.
So when the plane came in and we went up, the wall kind of did a little wave, and a concrete block fell out of the ceiling, went through the little overhead piece, hit him in the head. He was our only, nicked up guy coming out of the Pentagon.
Okay.
So I got up. Bobby was slow in getting up because he's like, got a head wound. O was getting out of his cubicle just about the time I was passing it, and the window is right here. So the distance between the rings, maybe 15 feet, maybe.
Okay.
I couldn't see the other ring. Fire.
Wow.
But 2 things: Kevlar walls, Mylar windows, no blast frag. The window was spidered, but it didn't come through.
Wow.
Made it around the corner.
So what kept it? What kept any of the blast, or was there anything unique about the floors that kept it from penetrating the floor up?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is just like a miracle, like how we got out of there.
Yeah.
Because, anyone who wants to make a runway beneath you while you're in a building, like your odds of survival are pretty low, right? Because it did not explode. It caught fire, and when all the fuel from the wings kind of came off and now gushed in, that caused the fire that then, once again weakened everything.
Right.
And so because we were in this new section, it was the only wedge that had the update. The other wedges didn't even have it. So once again, I looked at that as, in God's timing, a miracle. So I was the first one through the emergency doors, and no one had been through those doors before. Like, this is the new update, but no one knew what was on the other side. And so I kicked in the door, and then I went to go down the stairwell, and it was fire. I was like, turn back, fire. Then we turned back, ran the distance to get up to the next door out, and one of our Navy petty officers was just standing there, apoplectic, just standing there. We're like, Bud, it's time to go. He goes, but the room just did this. I was like, yeah, I know, it's time to go. So grabbed him, went out, and we were basically on the 5th floor going down the corridor, and those curtains, if you will, that come over, they were starting to make their way over, and we got out. So went down, center courtyard, Adirondack chairs are sitting there, and there are people just sitting there, totally oblivious.
Wow.
That the building had been hit. Hey man, listen, let's go. Building's been hit. What? I said, you see that smoke and fire? And they're like, what's going on? Very disorienting. And so
those are some pretty. If you're sitting ground level, and I've only seen the Pentagon from the outside driving past. Mm-hmm. I would assume you're kind of sitting in a canyon. So those walls, those buildings are pretty high on either side.
Yeah,
right.
So I guess he didn't hear the sound, or didn't see the fire, or smell the fuel burning. But yeah, we grabbed him on our way out, and then we were like, okay, Marine thinking kicks in. If that's a coordinated attack, then car bomb out front or drive-by out front is very possible. And so we go out, and it was like, okay, head count. Yeah, all on our team, everyone was accounted for. And I was like, let's get to higher ground. So we went over by the Arlington Cemetery, went to the high ground, and we're standing there, and F-16s are now in the air, and you're like, all right, good, got a little top cover going. And that was about it. Calm silent for a while. My cell phone, my keys, and all that in the building.
Oh, wow.
Because, when you're in your Marine Greens, you don't want things poking out your pockets.
Yeah.
You got a figure to maintain, right? And so had no way to call. Then when I tried to borrow a buddy's phone, no one's coming out with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know the deal.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow. 2 hours later, I'm still standing there, and I'm like, now what? I was like, start making my way south. Only 26 miles to go. Woo. And so there was a car driving by. I was like, bro, are you heading south? He goes, yeah. He goes, but I'm only going down as far as the mixing bowl, which is, where 495, the Beltway, and 95 meet. And he dropped me off at Trader Joe's. And I was like, So to leave basically something that you just got thrown into, and just thanking God that you're still alive, to walk into a grocery store was awesome, because no one had a clue what was going on. It was quiet, it was serene. The chaos was now gone. And so I was like, oh, I am now outside the Ark. And so I tried to call my wife to let her know I was okay. No, internal stuff was still jacked. So then I called my mom. I was like, oh, it goes through. So that's kind of like the word of recommendation. Sometimes you have to call outside your area for information to come back in to other people.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I called my mom. was like, hey, Mom, how are you doing? Because I didn't want to scare her. She goes, I'm doing fine. What are you doing calling? I said, well, we had just had an event here in D.C. and I just want to let you know I'm okay. Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, can you call Kate and let her know? Sure. Okay. Now, meanwhile, I'll give you the condensed version for Kate.
Yeah, because I was about to ask that next is, obviously you're living through the thick of it.
Yeah.
And I'm still amazed at the integrity of the floors, that nothing, now I'm sure later on, because I think that whole area collapsed eventually.
Yes.
Yeah. So the fact that the floor maintained its integrity through this is just freaking amazes me. But once again,
yeah,
I guess it attests to Cold War engineering,
right?
But yeah. So what is Kate going through at this point?
I'm going to back up on the what you just said real quick. I plugged the Army Corps of Engineers because they designed it back in the day, right? Probably with slide rules and like paper clips. Like these guys got it right. And just so you know, locally, Fort Barrancas, down south of Pensacola, like there, that fort was built by the Army Corps of Engineers. And remember that thing you don't build on sifting sand?
Yeah.
It's built on sand. You want to know how? The arch. So the arch that you see is actually underneath as well. So it's providing stability and a firmer foundation in sand, and that's the reason why it's still
That's
operating.
crazy, really.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Go down, take a look. It's a great.
I've been down there, but I don't pay
dude.
attention. I said I will now.
Yeah, go appreciate the architecture.
That's pretty
man,
cool.
and the engineering. Come on, man. Trying to pull you to the other side. Okay. Anyway, Kate. Well, she gets.
Wait, and how old are your boys at this point?
Because
I remember, Will. That was, you've never met my son Will, but that was his 6th birthday. He was born. Yeah. I always tell him, hey, you had it before they had it, so. Press.
Yeah. So 10 and 8.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what is that? 5th and 3rd grade. And so Kate gets in her truck, and she's driving to the store. She's just running errands that morning. And, the radio's on, and it's like, and the Pentagon has this many people. And we're like, yeah, okay. So she changes the station. And the Pentagon has these many people. She goes, right, whatever. Turns off the radio. And then our sister-in-law, Robin, calls and says, hey, Kate. Yeah. What are you doing? Well, I'm driving to the store. Can you pull over a minute? Sure. So she pulls over. She goes, well, the Pentagon. She goes, yeah, they were just on it. I just turned off the radio. She goes, yeah, it's been hit. And she's like, what? Have you heard from Alex? No. And like now the wife panic starts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's like, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, it's on the news. A plane drove into it. She was like, oh boy. Now, my buddy Lex calls out, and because another Marine saw all these other Marines, he's now flooding, hey guys, I've had eye contact on these Marines. And so the wives, however they were doing it, I think they have this ESP thing, were like letting folks know. So that's how Kate knew that at least somebody had proof of life was visible. Now, I am in a grocery store, just hung up the phone. And I'm like, Lord, thank you for saving me. I have no idea what to do now. And because I'm in uniform, standing there, by the way, I didn't have my cover, so sorry guys. I'm standing there, and this little old lady comes up to me, and she goes, sir, were you just in the Pentagon? Yes, ma'am. Are you trying to get home? Yes, ma'am. I'll take you home. I was like, ma'am, I live another 10, 15, maybe 20 miles from here. She goes, if you lived in Florida, I'd carry you home. I was like, oh, wow. And no kidding, this kind, compassionate little old lady dropped me off at the house. And like, I was like, okay, all right, Lord, I don't know how you did that, but I stopped asking how a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm home. I kissed my wife, and she's crying, and I'm just so grateful. Because she asked, was it close to you? I said, yeah, it went underneath me, and that kind of shut her down. Brilliant. Love it. And just a few moments later, our boys come home because they canceled school. And they were like, yeah, we're out of school. And I had to shut them down. I was like, guys, listen, there's some bad things that are happening. And this is not a good day. And once they understood what was happening, because it was all over the news, they were just shocked. Like, all of us were. And so all we knew was that this event happened, and we were, have you ever been on this road?
It probably cuts into a road that we go camping on.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a while, but yeah. This is part of the adventure of gaffing it, ground assault force.
Yeah.
So yeah, we may be doing a Yui.
Okay, it's okay. For the folks listening and watching, you'll be greatly entertained by looking in the rearview mirror. Like, woo! There is no one behind us.
This is a plug for the Joe Pa Mobile Podcast in my retirement gift, 2022. Toyota, not Tacoma, Tundra.
Yeah, it's not a shameless plug. It's a necessary.
I know. Maybe I made this joke on yesterday's podcast. Maybe Toyota will pick me up.
Oh, yeah, right?
I'll probably say, stop mentioning us.
Dude.
We don't endorse your podcast. Anyway,
you should, because we're doing really well on this trail. Like,
heck yeah.
We left the paved, we left the gravel. We're now on hard packed red dirt with ditches.
With the bump.
Oh, here we go.
Boop. That's why you get the TRD off-road. I know.
That was good.
That looked pretty legit.
Yeah, it was. You guys are missing a good thing inside here.
I'm going to have to put a camera on it that goes forward so people could say, what the flip is he doing?
Yeah, like, what?
Joe, don't do that.
You'll have more people watching like, he's taking it, what? He's flirting?
Yeah.
What?
Hold my beer and watch this. Although, yeah, we do not endorse drinking and driving by any stretch. Okay, yeah. So as you're saying, so that you've brought the kids back down to earth.
Yep, brought them back down to earth, and we were talking. And then the next day, it was the day off. I'm sorry, it was Tuesday that the plane went in, and Thursday we were back to work. And that drill that we were working on taking things down, the question was, what can we add to the fight? Because whoever did this, we're coming, right?
Yeah.
And so it went from not having a budget to what do you need? Which was a great budget drill, by the way. If you're that guy, you're like, I want some of this, I want some of this, I want some of this, because we're going to rain hate for however long. So that was that. But now I got to tell you some of the individual after effects. One, I had to stop watching the news, because that constant, just watching people fall out of buildings, plane hitting, and all that other stuff. I was like, this is not good for anyone's psyche.
No.
Two, we now started getting the reports in, like who made it, who did. Chuck Capitz, who I mentioned earlier, was one of the guys that went downstairs. Well, when he went downstairs, he went to the crisis action team, talking to a couple of the other intel officers. And they said, there's a high probability that we're going to be hit, and there's a plane in the air not responding. And so he actually walked out from that little quick meeting into another room to call upstairs and said, hey, you might want to start getting people out. That's when the plane came in. It knocked him to the floor, and he got up and noticed all the fuel that was coming in.
Oh, wow.
Because it knocked him to the floor. He was, picking up other people, and, because some of them got hit with the debris once the plane and the stuff from the plane came in. So he took, one guy out, runs back in, and now he's watching this fuel-based thing spark and ignite. Now there's this thing starting to happen. He grabs the second person, runs back out. Comes back in for the third one. The whole place is engulfed in flames. Grabs the last person. That's all he could do, and he gets out. And so grateful that he made it. Grateful that he was at least able to save 3 lives. But that was one of those things of, what can you do? And that's always been kind of like one of my models. What can you do with what you have and the time you have left?
Yeah.
Because some people this is it, and stop. Keep going until there is nothing left. No time, no resources, nothing. But you better keep moving until then.
Yeah.
The other thing that was of note, those crash curtains that I mentioned earlier, there were several people days afterwards died of smoke inhalation because no one briefed them on those smoke curtains. So they didn't know how to get out. And some died at the door. Some apparently were probably running back and forth and just succumbed to the fumes and fire. So out of the 4 things that, I mentioned, the windows, the design, and the walls, those 3 definite pluses. The curtain, sure, it was a plus. However, a lot of lives were lost. But immediately in that after action, if you go into the Pentagon or if you're already there, you'll notice the signs on the wall. So now it's a known thing, which is good. But we didn't even know what was on the other side of the the door, because it was just newly updated. So suffice it to say, there was a lot of things that we learned afterwards. The other thing that we learned, and I may get hate mail on this one, that budget I was telling you about, well, we were running it off of a server, and it was downstairs where the plane went in. But that was good, though, because we had a backup. It was beside the original. So we lost the primary and the backup one shot. Wow. So we were rebuilding our database for months after.
Dang.
So several lessons learned, right? Meaning you might want to take your keys with you, or having some means to get into your car should you get back to it. Always have a cell phone, especially nowadays. That's kind of like a given. When things go pear-shaped, call out of the area to hopefully call back in. Always tell your wife you love her.
Yes.
Yep.
Every day.
Yep, there you go.
Several times a day.
Yeah, that's my man.
Man.
And be prepared for when things go completely horrible to do whatever you can, because there's likely, the fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
A lot of people freeze. So be prepared.
Well, and that's one of those things that I always told my boys is, hey, one of the biggest things is you can work your way out of a bad decision. You can't work your way out of no decision.
Yeah.
And so make a decision, pull the trigger and commit, and just go.
Go.
And yeah, like you said, because otherwise you're gonna go back to fight, flight, or freeze. And if you're freezing, I don't want you to have to live through that. So press.
Hey, I'm impressed you found hardball again.
Oh yeah, the fork down there was where we go camping. So I kind of.
Oh, you had a sense. Okay, for the newbie, new to this area, new to apparently the trails. That was an exciting little jaunt.
So we've made it past 9/11.
Yes, sir.
Incredible, man. That is crazy. That's really the first story that I've heard of a guy that was in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
So
you know what's really odd about that, though? There's a group of people that are out there that think that never happened, because they did such a great job of putting it back together. Like, man, that was a planned attack. It never happened. And one of my buddies, Neff, he was like listening to one of these guys, 2 guys talk about it, and they're like, oh, it never happened. He goes, no, one of my good friends was in it. Yeah, right. He's like, no, I can tell you he was in it. I still have pictures, and the whole thing. People are like, well, what was it like? I mean, you're talking the sound of it, the smell of it, the terror, if you will, like ingrained in your head. And so for those out there who have thought that was like a fake thing, no.
Well, it drives me nuts because and you know as well as I do, that the U.S. can't keep a freaking secret, and that happening, highly unlikely,
Yep.
So
Well, you know what they say about haters, right?
Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate.
Yep.
And so that's what they do.
So, all right. So we rolled past 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, I got one more. And Bob, I got to tell you about Bob. Okay, what about Bob? Well, when we were living years ago.
Now I always think Bob is in Bob, Big Orange Ball.
No.
The son.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So not that Bob.
No.
All right. Pentagon Bob.
Actually,
Pentagon Bob.
yes, but no. This was Crystal City Bob.
Okay.
But Bob Dolan was one of my neighbors that lived across the street. His son Bo would play with our sons, and so I'm talking like we're the dads that go out with the Nerf football and throw it to our little ones, right? Well, Bob worked in Crystal City and was called over to a meeting that day. Bob was one of the people who perished that day.
Oh, gosh.
So to go to his funeral, to see his son Bo, crushed me.
Oof.
I was like, Lord, I have no idea. I worked there. He didn't. And he was the one who lost his life. But
and he was he military? Was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Navy guy.
Gosh.
Yeah. And so the tragedies always hit you in an area that you're like it's hard to believe, right? How one person makes out and one who has really nothing and they perish. And once again, don't try to resolve it because you will drive yourself mad.
Yeah.
But to me, it just brought me more to my knees in prayer, just gratefulness, but also asking for blessing and care over Bob's family, because it's tough to lose your dad in combat, but it's tougher to lose your dad in a combat that he was never aware of.
Yeah. Talk about a flank. Holy cow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Did you ever, whatever became of his boy?
If my wife was here, she'd be able to tell you like the stories and whatnot. She did tell me that Bo was doing well, high school graduation picture, and I was like, okay, that warms my soul. But at the same time, growing up without a dad,
tragic.
Hard. Yep.
So, man.
All right, that pretty much expires all my stories about 9/11.
Yeah, I mean that's legit. Holy cow. So, you make it through 9/11. One of my CAA buddies. He knows I got a better truck than him.
That's all we need sometimes.
Oh man. So yeah, shout out to my bro Fredrickson. I gotta tell him he made the podcast.
Oh yeah, he'll be impressed on that one. And tell him it's early in the podcast so he watches all of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So after 9/11, after your assignment at the Pentagon, where do you end up going? I mean, what are you at this point? Are you a major? Are you still a captain? A senior captain?
So,
what?
2001. No, I'm still a captain at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I was one of the first Marine Corps aviators to go into the acquisition program, so that you would have enough time to meet the federal regulations for owning a program or being a program manager.
Okay.
So that was my first DC tour, non-flying. That after that, it was like, oh, okay, well, let's keep you going. And so I went to amphibious warfare school.
Okay.
After, wait, is that right? 2004. Yes. Wait, my timeline's a little messy, but I think, senior captain. I think I went to, yes, that's what happened. I went to amphibious warfare school. It's now expeditionary warfare school. So I guess I can say back in the day, I went to AWS. And once again, very grateful to be back with a lot of my peers, learning about, the high-end,
is that East Coast or West Coast?
It's Quantico.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. All right.
So having a great time, once again, getting back into this mindset, and then also this mindset of training for war. Like that right there amps everybody up, because this isn't just like butta jam. This is now, hey, we're going in, and some of us are going to be leading Marines or being with coalition partners going in. So a lot of our training was very much appreciated. And then at the end of that training, I had the blessing, and I didn't think it was going to be, of being a platoon commander at Platoon Leaders Course, PLC.
Okay.
So PLC Juniors is basically, it's an entry pathway to make officers that are still in college, right? I think it's over the sophomore to junior year. Then PLC Seniors is during the junior to senior year, and at the end point of that, you'll know whether or not you'll be commissioned later on for service in the Marine Corps as a Marine Corps officer. So I had PLC Juniors. That was awesome because basically I went through the officer candidate selection, OCS, and that's think of it as a 10-week boot camp for officers, and there's a lot that is graded on your capability to lead and how well you can PT, physical training.
Okay.
And so going through a second time as a platoon commander, so much more fun. I didn't have to yell once. All you really do is PT hard, motivate young college students, and the ones that aren't cutting it, well, you help them out. Like, help them out.
Motivate. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. But my wife told me that not all my tactics are appreciated. And I was like, what? So one morning I go in at, 4:15 a.m., 0415. Because I'm usually up at that time, reading, praying, and just spending time with the Lord. But now this day I go in. As I walk through the squad bay, I walk into the squad bay and I notice there's activity in the bathroom. And I'm like, oh man, I got candidates up. So I walk in and I see all these candidates getting their uniforms ready, working on knowledge and things like that. And I'm like, hey, should you guys be in here? And they look and they're like, no sir, we're not. I was like, do you need help? Yeah, yes sir. I was like, hey, stay here. I'm gonna go get some help. So I go into the hooch where my gunny is. I was like, Gunny, there's about 8 candidates in the bathroom that need your help.
Oh, no!
I told my wife that story. She goes, how evil are you? I was like, baby, it was so great. It was the best setup ever. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So, man, that was a good time. Then after that, went out to Hawaii to fly 53s and 53 Deltas.
Okay.
And then back to DC for a spell, and then back to Hawaii, then back to DC for my final tour in DC.
Okay. So whenever you were in Hawaii, just mainly working with the fleet, or what?
Yes, I mean,
okay.
The first time squadron, second time squadron, and a lot of because the second time major, then got promoted to lieutenant colonel while I was out there.
Gotcha.
So working at the Marine Aircraft Group MAG headquarters, OPSO, doing a lot of cool things, getting ready, getting Marines ready to deploy, and even my one time as a IA, an individual augment, had all my trash packed, ready to go. Oh, hey, they have more than enough people, so you don't have to go. I was like, wow. Can't fly there, can't go there. And my mom was like, well, that's proof. I was like, proof of what? God still answers prayer because I didn't want you to go. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, I know. I think I actually told my mom once, stop praying that I wouldn't head over.
Yeah.
So.
Do you not know that this is what we train for?
Yeah, exactly. This is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, dang. Man, it's crazy. So post Marine Corps, you end up going.
Yeah.
Civil service, was it?
Civil service. So while one of the reasons why I got pulled back to the Pentagon is I was working money at one point. Then I was working, money for Marine aviation for just the Marine Corps, not Navy and Marine Corps. And so when I got pulled back, it was to do more of the same, plus help coordinate the deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Afghanistan.
Okay.
During that time, we did this thing called 202K, which was to take the Marine Corps from its like 160,000 man footprint to 202,000, and what it would look like to bring it back down. So a lot of those drills, I was, intimately familiar with, because you're not only talking like how many aircraft, but you're talking like clothing, chow halls, seat spaces at schools, like that kind of coordination across the board. So it was kind of fulfilling to kind of get into that one. And then they asked, Alex, listen, you've done well. We want to do right by you. What do you want to do? I said, well, I'd like to continue my acquisition stuff. And they said, great, because we want to send you over to the Joint Program Office, because the initial operating capability of the F-35B is within the next 3 years, and we'd like to have a Marine over there. So that's how a Marine Corps helicopter pilot ended up on the F-35 program.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Dang. So in the mix of all this, going to DC, I mean, did you like going to DC? You can say it. I mean, the majority of guys I meet, when they go to the Pentagon or they go to DC, they obviously, if you ask them on the flip side, hey, I learned a lot. But did they want to go there? Absolutely not.
So that's the thing, right? Was it beneficial?
You liked it.
No. Here's
just,
the thing. The reason why you saw so much like processing is, how do you badmouth something that actually provided a lot of good things for you?
Okay.
Right?
That's true.
So growing up, our kids grew up near Quantico. So all 3 times, whether it was base housing or living in Woodbridge or living in Dumfries, our sons got a chance to connect with old friends, run around areas that they've run around for a lot of their lives. So that was good. We're both from Pennsylvania, so you're only talking hours.
I love this part of the road.
There we go.
Sorry.
No. They saw my expression.
This is my. Oh,
yeah.
This is my. This is. And then, where me and where the house is back in this area.
Oh, okay, good.
So I know that drop well.
Okay, good.
Anyway.
Now I have to try when I get my Jeep. Okay. So, one, close to home, so we could go either to my wife's place in Pennsylvania or my parents' place in Pennsylvania, which was good. And both, let me see, at this point, going back to see my dad while he was still alive, that was a big deal. So that was kind of like a plus.
Gotcha.
The experience of meeting a lot of great people, but also when we weren't like trying to shuffle up and down I-95, like you're by the Shenandoah Mountains, apple picking, going skiing, like history. That place is awesome.
Would be cool for that.
Yeah, like taking in cultural events. Like my wife would come up with things that I was like, okay. She was like, we're gonna go see TSO. I was like, General Tso's chicken? She goes, no, TSO. Don't you know what that means? No. I mean, you get on me for acronyms. What does it mean? Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So we went and saw that concert, and I was just like, I'm sold. Like, this is awesome. But then we also had to go to a Michael Bublé concert, and I was like, okay, whatever. And by the way, because I am pretty sure that there are other men listening to this that have never been to a Michael Bublé. Listen, he's a great crooner, all right? But let me tell you this. What I did not expect or anticipate was when you're at a Michael Bublé concert, and let's just say the section we were at on this floor, this is in DC, right, the arena. Let's just say there are 8 known locations where bathrooms are, both men and women. Only one of them had men. All of the bathrooms had turned to women bathrooms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, did not anticipate that. I walked the whole 360 to find the one that was still a male bathroom. I was like,
so if you're a bachelor,
yeah,
hit a Bublé.
Yeah, hit a Bublé concert.
A Bublé concert.
You will up your chances of having a girl that is just so overwhelmed. Like, you may do well there. Just know where your bathroom is.
Yeah. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so during this time, Marine Corps, civil service, at some point, God's pulling at the strings saying, hey, I've got bigger plans for you.
Yes.
And what does that look like? Because, I mean, having...
Well, this is a part of the God story that I so appreciate. Because when you have a life that you're like, well, I'll go from this duty station to this duty station to this duty station, and you're like, yeah, that's the way this is going to be. No, if it's not in God's will, that's not what's going to happen, right? Because when we were out in Hawaii, I thought we were going to retire there. We were part of going and attending and belonging to Hope Chapel, where my senior pastor, Ralph Moore, who has planted tons of churches, I thought we were going to retire and I would be planting a church in Japan.
Okay.
That's when I got the call back to the Pentagon. And that was the first time I heard, well, Alex, that's why they call them orders and not invitations. I was like... So
I love that.
When I sat down and I told, basically my pastor, Pastor Ralph, I was like, Pastor Ralph, all those things that we had talked and prayed over, yeah, I'm going back to DC. He goes, all right, listen, I want you to go back there intentionally looking to plant a church. All right, I got my orders. So I went back there intentionally looking to plant a church, and this is in 2007. And so we moved.
So what year did you, I'm sorry, and one of the things that I should have asked you, what year do you end up retiring?
The first time from the Marine Corps, 2012.
Okay, all right.
The second time, 2023, last September.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Still coming. I haven't hit my 1 year mark yet. And then after 1 year, I'm an old retired guy.
Right.
So 2007. Living in our new home in Dumfries. Good neighborhood, boys locked on in school. And I remember as soon as the Verizon thing was set up and I had internet, I sat down and I type in church planting near me, Dumfries, Virginia kind of thing. And up pops this pillar church meeting in basically Southbridge. I was like, wait. That's our neighborhood. And I remember calling out to my wife. I was like, babe, there's a church planting church. Where? In our neighborhood. Really? And I look, it's at Swans Creek Elementary. I was like, babe, where are you going to start substituting? And she said, Swans Creek. I was like, hey.
Oh, wow.
We're going to start we're going to go to church where you are going to substitute. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah. And so we show up that Sunday, like one of our first Sundays being, feet on ground. And that's where I met Pastor Clint and his family, young Noah, Noah's mom, Jen. And I was like, wow, I think there were 30 people there and 20 of them kids.
Wow.
So it was meager. And I was like, okay, I think this is what church planting looks like. And so, needless to say, that was the start of it. And I say start of it because being that we're in and out of the DC area, we had another church we were going to. But because I left with the instructions, go plant a church, or think about planting a church, I went with, okay. So we were doing both. And when you're church planting, it means that you don't have all the accoutrement that you're used to.
Right.
Like there isn't a youth group. There's not really a women's study or women's group. And you're just like, all right, this is what the Lord's doing. And so Kate and I were part-time here, part-time there. And then one day, Pastor Clint came up and said, Alex, listen, I would really like you to commit to coming here. I know that we don't have a youth group yet, but I see you have 2 boys. And so, all right. So Kate and I prayed over it. That's how the start of like being pulled each step deeper into ministry.
Okay.
Because I became the youth pastor. And, Brian Scott, who was one of the college kids who was leading it for a while, happened to fall in love with this beautiful young lady named Amy. And, the man was smart enough to ask her to marry him. She did. And once again, they go off and begin and continue a beautiful life. And it's like, okay, one's out, two's in. And so just once again, loving on these young followers of Jesus and just trying to keep them focused on like, hey, the world around you is going to tell you one thing, but listen to what Jesus is telling you now. So we very grateful that we got plugged in, got started, because a lot of those things that we now enjoy in terms of this church plant here in Crestview, Noah is also one of our planting pastors. So
how old was Noah when you first met him?
Wow, 2007. Seven.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've been a part of Noah's life for a long time.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize you guys went back that far. That's amazing. That's pretty cool.
It is, because once again, the God story says what you see now is not necessarily what it will be later.
Well, yeah, you couldn't be further from the truth on that.
Yeah, and so this is why.
No. Yeah.
Closer.
You couldn't. Yeah. Duh. You couldn't have been closer to the truth on that just because of the story as it evolves.
Right, and once you get a chance to like take a step back and take a look at the breadth and width of what happened, you're like, only God. Like, seriously.
Oh yeah. And I don't want to. Noah's story is Noah's story, but sadly, his father passes away, and here you guys are.
Yeah.
So I mean that makes the relationship that you and him have so much more precious, coming to Florida together.
Yeah, because we had that sit down chat where it was like, Noah, you're good. Whatever decision you make, stay home, help the fam, or go on this church plant. He goes, no, I'm going.
Yeah.
And that, oh my goodness, I don't even know. There were emotions there. I was like, okay, first off, he's not following me. He's following Jesus, because I wouldn't follow me into like a restaurant, like that kind of thing. But the fact that the Lord, just put it on his heart and Noah is following the Lord, I'm like, wow. So his new wife moved down here to Florida. I'm like, wow, talk about God doing some crazy cool things. Once again, that was another one of them.
Well, and the continuity of, if I can be so bold, of extended family, if you will, is it's pretty powerful. The relationships we build, whether it's in the military, in ministry, is it's pretty profound.
Yep, it is. But one that I appreciate, though, because there are things that you go through your whole life sometimes, and you get used to like basically the routine and whatnot. But when your routine is disrupted by the realities of life, like you don't know what tomorrow holds, then you appreciate having those relationships that get you through some of the hard times where you don't know how to go forward, you don't know what to do. And this goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, by just keep pressing. But when you have somebody to press with you, man, that's tremendous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, undoubtedly. Well, holy cow, that pretty much brings this full circle. I will briefly, we're going to go ahead and bring this to a close here pretty soon because we're going on an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Boy, that went by pretty quick.
Yeah, it did. Sorry, listeners, that had to listen to all that drabble.
No, it's good stuff. It's pretty cool. So I think, much like you, I think our transition stories from military to civilian life, for the most part, and I don't want to speak for you, has been pretty smooth. Once again, I don't want to speak for you. Did you have any struggles moving from the Corps into GS into ministry, or
no?
Okay.
No, and here's the other part. Like, if there was an episode 3, or I should say episode 4, because this is 2 episodes you get bonus round, right? That I would tell you how many times the Lord stepped in and just took over in a couple of these things, right? One, I had an A plan, a B plan, and a C plan leaving the Marine Corps before, selecting for GS, right? A plan was to go government service because there was a job that I was in, and so that's the one I picked. The B plan was to stay in the area and pick up a contracting job because that would give me flexibility, opportunity to make additional funds. And then there's the C plan, which was total recreation. We're going to move, don't know where, but we're going to recreate our family. And out of all the things I prayed over and kind of like, okay, this is what it could look like, I had a great boss, Mr. Doug Ebersol, who loved that man. I can tell you, if he called and said, Alex, I need some help, I'm like, okay, start the clock. I'll be there, kind of thing, right? And so he literally pulled me into the GS system. And I say pulled me in because, yes, I got interviewed. Yes, I was selected. And I had a start date. I said, I would like to start on this date because I think it was like my dad's birthday, October 12th. And they're like, oh, that's middle of the pay period. And Mr. Ebersol on the email said, no, figure it out. That's when he starts.
Nice.
I was like, wow. To be cared for that well, I was very appreciative. But then realizing, wow, Lord, thank you for, putting certain people in my life. And so that was my military to GS. And then GS to civilian, like retiree. Once again, like I kind of knew we would be coming down here. We did a lot of vision trips. We did a lot of like prep things. And then once the Lord put Crestview on this is where, I was like, okay, that was in the November, December time frame of 22. So now I'm like, okay, September 23 is when I want to retire. And there's certain things I need to do to help that, but also we have a house now because November 22, God did some great things because Kate and I came down here on a vision trip, and I wanted to show her the types of homes in the area because we're leaving a basement, 1 level, 2 level house, basically 3 floors, to typically a ranch layout. So that affects storage, living, all that. And so I was like, baby, we're going down. It was over the Veterans Day weekend. I said, we're going to go down. We're going to take in the blues and all that other stuff. But I do want you to see the type of houses because I need you to plan and get a kind of like accustomed to this kind of thinking. She was like, okay. So we get down on a Wednesday night. Thursday, we kind of drive around, but that drive around was to kind of get a sense for the neighborhoods. And so once we had a sense for the neighborhoods, I put together a list of first house, second house, third house, priority order, and I gave them to Jill Wood. By the way, if you're local and you need a real estate agent, Jill Wood is your lady. That lady hustles. Sorry, it's not a shameless plug. It's an intentional one.
No, you're good. You're good.
So I said, okay. I contacted Jill. I said, hey, here's the houses we want to see, and here's the priority order. She goes, yep, got it. That morning, she lets me know, hey, your number one priority, that house has some activity going on in the morning. So what I did was I swapped 1 and 3. I was like, perfect. So we go to the number 3 house. We walk in. I was like, well, the landscaping's good. Get into the house. Wow, this house has good bones. It's kind of like what we're looking for. It's got space. Wait, it's got a pool. Okay. And I told my wife, I was like, well, this is kind of like the upper end of what I was thinking about, but this is the type of house. She was like, okay, I like it, but the colors, this is ugly, like yellow, like canary yellow. Who paints a house canary yellow? I was like, baby, don't worry about that. So we go to house number 2. Like literally we pull up, I look at it, nope. And I said that to myself. Kate didn't say anything. Kate walked into one of the rooms and it was a life-size It clown. Like you turn the corner, you see it, and there's a 6'2" It clown standing in the corner looking at you.
Are you serious?
Yes.
What says more of I don't want to sell this place than that? No.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And Kate then audibly said nope and rushed out. And our real estate agent Jill was like, what's going on? I was like, oh, you go in there. She goes in there, she looks at it, shakes her head, pulls out her phone, starts taking pictures.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. This is helpful. I was like, okay. So needless to say,
how bad do you want to sell your house?
Right. So that one came straight off the list. Not an issue. Then the number 1 house that is now number 3, we go. It's in a gated community. I was like, yeah, this is ministry. I don't want people thinking like, oh, wow, the pastor's got a gated community. Like, yeah, not on board with that. And do you ever hear that one phrase like good helmet, bad uniform, or bad uniform, good helmet?
I don't know.
So it's a phrase that some of my friends would use when going out, and if they saw a girl that had a good helmet, that meant she had a pretty face.
Oh, gotcha.
Bad uniform, like, whatever. Yeah. So anyway, I gave it to the photographer who took pictures of this 3rd house because it made it look fantastic. But you get in there, it was dark, no backyard. Literally, you leave the back porch and the fence for the common ground, there was maybe a scoot space where you could go through sideways. I was like, nah, this is definitely not it. And then Kate said, I really like that house that was number 3 on your list. I was like, okay. So the next day, Dale, Patty, myself, Kate, my brother-in-law and my sister, plus Jill, we all went back to that first house we saw.
With the It clown?
No, that's the 2nd house.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that one was gone.
All right.
I tried to erase that from the memory, right? So we go back, and I wanted eyes on from somebody else. And Dale said the same thing. Good bones, good space. Yeah, we could worship in here, to gather here. I was like, yeah. And plus, we probably can host a couple families that are coming down here. He goes, yeah. This is good. And I said, okay, well, let's do some work. So we gathered around the island, joined hands, and prayed. Lord, we're going to humbly ask for this home. Out of all the things we see, this looks like a good spot. It's in an area that it's close to places where we could gather. Would you be so kind? And then afterwards, Kate talked to the real estate agent, and I talked to the real estate agent. Kate talked to the real estate agent to provide feedback. Like, this house is really nice, but these colors are just awful. And I looked at my wife, and I was like, baby, it's good bones. Paint's temporary.
Yep.
She goes, no, they're just hideous. And I was like, those are strong words. But irony, our real estate agent said, other people have said that, and that's why those people just walked in. And those people were the painters.
Nice.
Yeah. And so hearing the conversation, they go over to my wife and they said, so if you were to paint, what colors would you choose? So white cabinets, this nice slate gray here, and a couple of the other colors. And they said, oh, okay. And then that's when I took my my cue. I was like, obviously my wife's interested. And plus we just prayed over it. I was like, hey, Jill, we are not in a position to buy. However, we would like to rent in order to buy. Alex, I'm sorry. I contacted the folks, and they want to close within 60 days. I said, okay, that's fine. That's not us. And, I'm not going to rush us into a bad scenario. So, that was it. We went home over that, Veterans Day weekend. Great trip. Had a good eyes on. My wife feels comfortable, which is very important for me. And I was like, okay, we'll be back down sometime January, February for another trip, and we'll see what we can do then. Well, mid-December, I get a phone call from Jill. Jill says, hey, Alex, good talking to you. Question, yes. The owners want to know if you're still interested. Yes. Okay, I'll queue up the paperwork.
Nice.
So, 1 January, we were renting that home, our new home. Like, that's like one of the things. And in that renting of this new home, I kind of like looked around the area and I said, okay, it's now starting the time to make phone calls. We're going to, like, our core team and whatnot will gather in our home. But let's start reaching out to see, like, there's a community center in Crestview. There's schools in Crestview. So I, called a couple of the schools and they had churches in them. I was like, oh, that's good. I already know that this area has plenty of churches, but now we're trying to kind of squeak in. And then this Riverside Elementary, I sent a note to Miss LeVictor, unsolicited, like, hey, wondering if you could entertain, allow us to provide you some information of why I think it would be good for us to plant a church and host it in your school. And would you consider a meeting? Yes, I would consider a meeting. I was like, wow, this is cool. And then come to realize that Riverside Elementary School is across the street from the place we're now renting with the intent to buy. And I was like, wow, Lord, is it really going to be that cool? So came back in January and, with now a load to drop off in the house, once again, good Marine, I'm going to mark my territory.
Right.
And I was like, okay, cool. And then that morning, Dale, Ben, and myself were in Dale's kitchen praying over and asking the Lord for a person of peace. And I was like, okay, Lord, we have no idea what this is going to look like. Never met the principal, never had a phone call, don't know what we're walking into. Now, by the way, go right down DTC here.
Gotcha.
Downtown Crestview, by the way. They're tearing up the road, but I do want to let you see some of this. This is good stuff. Okay, so that morning, I'm sitting out now at Riverside Elementary School, outside the principal's office, waiting for Miss LeVictor. Don't even know what she looks like, and I'm sitting out there like, Lord, help me. I don't even know what to say. I'm probably just going to end up babbling and pleading that this could be considered. And this weird feeling of, I'm sitting outside the principal's office. I'm in my 50s. That feeling doesn't go away. I was like, holy smokes,
Were you
man.
sweating a little bit?
Yeah. I'm like, man. Then out pops Miss LeVictor. Yeah, notice, doesn't it look neat, clean?
It does.
Cool. Once we get over the train tracks, you're going to make the first left.
Gotcha.
And so I'm now like just disarmed. Like, here comes this very young and very capable principal. And I was like, wow, this is cool. She goes, Mr. Chatman, pleasure to meet you. I was like, Miss LeVictor, pleasure meeting you. And she, as she's walking towards her office, she looks up and sees Miss Kennedy. Miss Kennedy, please join us. And she looks at me, she goes, okay, Miss Kennedy's the assistant principal. I was like, okay. So all three of us walk in, she goes, Mr. Chatman, close the door. And at this point, that whole walkway, I've been praying. Like, Lord, I just ask that you precede me, help me use the words that you want me to use. Don't let me mess this up. And she goes, close the door. By the way, I just wanted to let you know that Miss Kennedy and I are Christians. When can you start?
Oh, so cool.
Bro, I could not say a word. I was choking back tears. Like, here I am thinking it was about me, thinking that I had to say something, thinking that I had to sell something to somebody, and God was already at work. And once I composed myself, I was like, all right, well, thank you. I don't even know what else to tell you. Like, that was it. But I got to tell you, when we asked for a person of peace, I had no idea that we got two. And literally, this past school year was fantastic. Just watching what the Lord has been doing. To have access to a school, to have the ability to love on people and share Jesus with them and worship there on Sunday is amazing. And that was the first meeting. The second meeting was over my wife's spring break. And we come back down to, once again, bring another load down, show my wife, and now she has ideas. Oh, by the way, my wife was really pleased with the painters. Everything was painted like she wanted. And I sat there for a second and I went, wow, Lord, you even painted the house. So we now, my wife and I, go and meet Miss LeVictor. And so I'm telling Miss LeVictor I want to introduce her to my wife. And as we're talking, I'm talking to Miss LeVictor and my wife. And I'm trying to hold a conversation now with the principal and my wife. But then this conversation of principal talking to a future teacher. And I was like, wait a second. This ain't my meeting. Huh. My wife is going to be a fourth grade school teacher at the place we're going to worship? Who does that?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing right there.
Yeah. So when you ask, and because you did, what was that transition like? Joe, let me ask you, what do you think?
Yeah, sounds pretty smooth.
Yeah.
So
better than I deserve, and more amazing because it's like one of those things. Like, I don't know how, remember I stopped asking that question, God is going to answer certain prayers. Yes, no, or grow. And I was good for any of them because I trust him. My faith is in him because he's been doing this literally all my life, that I know to come to him. I know to ask him. I know to patiently wait for him. I don't do well at that sometimes. But
oh no, I'm the worst offender of waiting, for God's timing.
yeah.
And there's so many times when I look back on it and I think about it, it's kind of like, wow, if I had it my way,
Right.
I would not have the things that I have.
Right.
And that'll be a good. I'll share a story with you sometime. We're getting down to the hour here, but no, I've the story of Eliana's adoption, had it been on my timing, it would have never happened. And,
Right.
We get so impatient instead of, and we're taught in the Marine Corps, in AVSOC, in the Army, tactical patience. And military guys will talk all day about tactical patience, but when it comes to their faith, when it comes to my faith, I'm like, come on, God. Come on, God.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, exercise some tactical patience and realize that you're not the one that's driving this ship. So
beautifully.
slow your roll. And,
I'm going to make an acronym out of this. We'll call it TSP, Tactical Spiritual Patience.
Yeah. Yep. So, well, all right. Well, we're going on part 2.
hours.
Yeah, we're almost 2
Right
hours.
here.
Okay. Go ahead and because Pillar is for everybody, but it's designed and it's, I don't want to say catered, but the focal point is on military members.
That's correct.
Military families.
Yep.
Where can people find you?
Okay.
Phone number, website, whatever you got, now is the time to let people know.
Okay. The easiest thing to do is go on to our website, www.pillar.crestview, all one word, Pillar spelled Pillar, and Crestview is just as it sounds, right? .com, and that's our website. At that website, you will see our our meeting times, which is at Riverside Elementary School on Sundays at 10 a.m. You'll also find our belief section. We're Southern Baptists, and sometimes that throws people off. They're like, "Are you one of those non-denominational?" Well, we're associated with the Southern Baptist Convention, especially here in Florida. But it also tells you that we're elder-led. I am not the only pastor. We have 3. There's Noah, myself, and Dale. And on there, you can see a lot of the things that we're into, because we are just one of several churches that intentionally plant in military communities worldwide for the sole purpose of loving those in the military. And we know that each one of these military members, while they're still active duty, are likely to go from one Pillar church to another. We're experiencing that right now. As a matter of fact, Noah's sister, Ruthie, just got married to one of the it was a beautiful relationship to watch, because here are 2 young ones in youth group that notice each other that are now married, and he's in the Marine Corps. He's here for flight school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so we just did their membership interview this past Sunday.
That is so cool.
Yeah, but see, this is what it looks like in real time. And so going on the website, you'll have our email addresses, our phone numbers, and just one thing to remember, www.pillarcrestview.com will get you all that access at Riverside Elementary School, home of the Eagles.
We just have to be driving past it right now.
How's that for time?
I know. Dude, yeah. I couldn't have planned it better.
Yeah.
Well, hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I enjoyed doing the interview with Alex. And keep tuning in. Do me a favor, and I've got to get my stuff squared away on my videos. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Tell me if I'm doing a good job or bad job. I'm not going to take offense. If you say, hey, Joe, you suck, please throw a little bit more in there so that I can go ahead and kind of like fix the suck.
Yeah.
So,
no, just suck less. That's all you have to do.
Just suck less. But hey, once again, thanks for hanging in there with me. And we'll have this posted up in a couple of weeks. So thanks for doing the podcast, man.
Yeah, man. It's been my pleasure. Do they normally run like 2 hours?
No, because usually, I'm going to have to start claiming gas on this thing. Anyway, love you guys, and stand by for the next one. Yeah, that's it. So take care. God bless. And we'll see you guys later.
Right.
See ya.
Bye-bye.